there, it's Rachel Gregg and welcome to my YouTube channel. On this video I'm sharing day 7 to day 12 of my December daily journal for 2021. If you'd like to see how I've set this journal up, I do have some other videos on my YouTube channel where I show how to create these little curved pages and also how I set it up using some paint and ink and various things to make some foundation pages. And I've also created a video sharing how I've decorated days 1 through to 6. And in this video I'm going to be sharing with you how I'm decorating day 7 through to day 12. So this page here is day 7 and it started out as a painted background where it had like yellow Pure Sunshine Dylusions paint, and I've then used the Darkroom door mesh stencil, the large mesh stencil, to stencil over some red paint over the top. Now it was quite vibrant and I wanted to kind of tone it down a little bit, so I've used some white linen Dylusions paint just to go over the top, just to make it a little bit more muted. So that means then I can do some journaling over the top without that mesh background being so vibrant. And it's just a nice little way just to tone that down for other pages. Just a good tip on how you can tone down some vibrant backgrounds. And I'm just using that same mesh stencil now to decorate some other pages ahead in the journal. You can see here how I've still got quite a few blank pages. So as I'm decorating one page, I'm trying to use those same supplies to then decorate some other pages, so it's got a little bit of continuity through the journal. So here I'm just using some distress inks and just stenciling over the top just to give it that same mesh pattern on some other future pages. So what I've got here, I'm going back onto my day 7 page and I've created a lot of little watercolor Christmas images. Now these were inspired by Jenna Rainey. I watched one of her YouTube videos and I'll link to that video in the description below in this video. Just if you wanted to create your own little watercolor Christmas bits, you can go and watch her video where she shows you how to create and how to watercolor all of these images, which is really nice and relaxing to do, and it's given me lots of little collage pieces or imagery to use in my journal here. And some of these ones I've just done from myself, like the jolly and the ho ho ho. They were just me writing those out. They weren't actually from Jenna's video, but once I did the little stockings and the trees and all that, I just continued on with a Christmas theme just to write out some of those words, which just gives me some nice little words to use in the journal. So I did all of these on watercolor paper, so that paper is quite thick, and so therefore I wanted to use a strong adhesive to stick it inside this journal, and that's why I'm using this Glossy Accents. And I'm just making sure that there's a good amount of Glossy Accents on these, and then just pressing them onto my book there. I've got the left hand page, which was that painted background, and then the right hand side I actually decorated the base of it using some distress inks. And then now I'm stamping up the date using the Everyday Life stamp set and for the Tuesday, and then now using the sketched numbers for the 7. What I'm doing now is using the little green pen here for my Wednesday. So this is that little curved flap in the book, the little tip in that I put inside the journal. Now what I'm doing is creating the date on this side and just using that little tiny flap there to put the date. And I've just hand drawn the Wednesday and the 8th, just using a green marker, and now just adding extra bits to that word. And you can see here on the left hand side of the page I've done my journaling for the 7th, and now on the 8th page here I'm just using a pen to write the word hair because I had a haircut that day. So I just wrote the word hair, and now just going around it with a black pen. Now these pens here that I'm using, this is a pen that I hadn't used before. This is the Ranger Letter It Fineliner pens, and I'm using it for the journaling over the top of the distress ink and the Dylusions paint, and it works really, really well. It's kind of got like it feels like it's got like a chalky finish to it, but it's just really nice and matte, so it blends really well into the page, and I actually found I really enjoyed journaling with it, so that was a nice little find. What I'm doing now is decorating my next 2 pages, which is page 9 and page 10. I'm starting out by using the large carved leaves stencil from Darkroom Door, just using some distress ink. This is the Festive Berries colour, and just using that to stencil over the top just to create some decoration for these pages. Now this stencil is interesting because it's got those little tiny lines. You can see those little tiny lines there. So when I stencil, I don't really rub too fast. The best way to do that is to just tap and twist. So I'm just tapping the ink blending tool and then twisting rather than rubbing left and right, because if I do that I'm going to move those little lines, those little stencil pieces. So you can see those little narrow little lines, so they're quite a delicate little stencil. So rather than rubbing, I just go press down with the ink blending tool and then twist the ink, and then that'll keep that stencil in place while still getting a lot of ink coverage on those pages. And now I'm using the Wild Honey Distress Ink just to go with that mesh stenciling that I did in the background that you can see up the top there. So I'm starting to decorate day 9 here, and I'm just stamping over the top of a painted background. So I'm using the Congratulations word block stamp from Darkroom Door, and I'm just using the Fern green archival ink to do that because it'll dry really nicely on that painted background. And I've just used some collage paper just to put on the left hand side, again using the days and the numbers from the Everyday Life and the Sketched Numbers stamp set just to create my dates. And now I'm using the journaling block from the Everyday Life stamp set, and this is where I'm going to put the journaling in for this page. It's got like a bunch of lines at the bottom, and then it's got a little space at the top, so any of the words or the days or anything that's in that stamp set, you can see that there was quite a few different options in that stamp set, will fit in the top of that section of that journaling card that you can see there. So I've stamped in the story just because that's where I'm going to write the story of this day. And now I've done my journaling and I'm just adding in a photo. This was a funny little story about my daughter Zoe receiving some awards, and this was a photo that my brother quickly mocked up on Photoshop about Rick and Morty and sent it through to us. So then I thought that it would be fun to include in my journal. And for now here I'm going on to day 10, and I've just used the Friday, and then now I'm using the big numbers from the Darkroom Door big numbers stamp set to create the 10. And I've done some journaling on day 10, but I haven't showed it there, but you will see it at the end of the video, so hang around to see that. What I'm doing now is moving on to day 11, and I've made this little carved stamp just out of like a little eraser, and using it, it's just like a little Christmas tree design, and I'm using it to create a full pattern of Christmas trees for the background for this page. So I'm stamping with leaf green archival ink, just repeating the pattern here. The design of this stamp means that it can kind of nest in quite easily. I'm not trying to be too perfect with the stamping because I quite like it when it's a little bit imperfect. It gives that real handmade look to it. So I'm just stamping that up, so now I've got a background full of Christmas trees. For this day here we went to the Evoca Twilight Markets. So I'm using the little tip-in flap here on this page to create like a little title page. And again, the way that I do my lettering is I just write it in my handwriting, and then I go back and then I embellish it with a little, like a few thicker sections of the letters, or if I want to join the letters together, this is when I do it, or add little loops or various things like that. And what I'm starting to do here is draw little tiny dots on the end of each one, like little open circles at the end of each letter, just where I can. And then I'll just colour in those with a different colour just to give it a little bit of interest on that title page. It kind of almost looks like Christmas lights, like little twinkly lights, which I think is kind of cool for, this particular page. And what I'm doing now is just adding in a little tip-in, like a photo flap tip-in. I've stamped out my Saturday on a little label and just added it to the top there, added a photo of us at the Twilight Markets, adding a few little stars. Now this one's from the Stitched Christmas stamp set, and this is what I love about some of these stamp sets where we have some tiny little stamps that we've included, and as you can see, even these little tiny stamps can make a lot of difference to your journal pages. So I've just stamped a few of those little stars using the Archival Vermillion ink pad, and now I'm just journaling on the back of this white tag the story about us being at the markets. And I had a little bit of extra space, so I just grabbed that little star stamp and just filled in those little spaces with those stars. Now this page here was a lot of fun. Now this is day 12, and what I was doing was watching a video from James Luke Burke Creative, and he was showing how to draw this little gingerbread girl. So I was following on with the video and just using my markers to draw this. Now again, I'll put a link to James's video in my description below, so if you wanted to do that as well, you can follow it along. So I just kept that for my day 12 and just did some journaling around the sides or around the edges to fill in again with those letterette pens from Ranger. So here's a look at the completed pages from day 7 through to day 12. If you'd like to see some of my other December daily videos, check out my YouTube channel and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos. Thanks so much for watching.